Well, hi everyone. Welcome to Rockin' the Box with the ABCs of Google+. Oops.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Google Plus for you and me.
Sean,
Yay!
that was really good, but you know what? Could you do that just one more time for us, please?
I'm not sure I
will
could,
give
Sandra,
you
without.
one more time, okay?
Okay, I'll try my very best, because we did get berated, Sandra, a couple of weeks ago, I think, didn't we?
We did. We have to do this because it was so slow, and we want people to be energized today.
Rather than slow down to non-event. Okay, I should try that
Okay,
again.
here is your
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Google Plus for you and me. Go on, little tougher. Thank you.
And thank you. And then I have my blocks, see? But they're not in order again, as usual, but they are the ABCs. And we are rocking the blocks with the ABCs of Google+. We're really excited today, and you'll see that Sean and I have come dressed for the occasion because we have a special guest today who happens to be renowned for his great cooking abilities. Now, I don't know that Sean and I are so well known for that, but anyway, as we get going, we'll go on to it. But let me put Sean up here. There he is with his hat. Okay. I would like for everybody to know that we're really glad you came. We're really feeling very special with everybody out there in the audience, and we want you to know that my co-host, Sean Mon from across the pond, is going to tell you about himself.
Sean, you're muted.
Sean must be muted. I'm not hearing a thing.
Thanks, Chef Dennis and Sandra. I actually started by saying I was going to do something different just then. I didn't anticipate I was going to do a silent movie. So I'll try and redeem myself. Can you hear me now?
Yep, yeah. Real good.
Yeah, cool. Okay, a little bit of an introduction. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Sean Marn. You can probably tell by my dulcet tones that I do come from across the other side of the pond. And I'm delighted to join Sandra and obviously for Chef Dennis to be on the show. My day role, if you like, is I'm an internet marketer for my sins, but I also go into small businesses and help them with their marketing campaigns. And it was as a result of that Sandra and I connected some months ago. So that's probably been one of the longest introductions I've ever done, Sandra, so I'll leave it there. Thanks.
It was good. It was a good introduction. And I'm Sandra Watson, and I coach and train the ABCs of Google+, so that you have the tools for your business for branding, marketing, and anything else. Now, on with the show. We're very delighted today to introduce Chef Dennis. Chef, I've put you up on screen so everybody can see your smiling face while I'm talking. How's that?
Sounds good, Sandra. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, we're delighted. And what I wanted to put up as the reason, Sean and I really were excited when we were talking about content marketing, what would be a good approach, because our last show was on that and it was humor in content marketing, but then we wanted to go a step further and say, what's next for content? And we were talking about how, well, it's kind of like food and it's kind of like a good meal, etc. So we thought about who would be good for that. And immediately, Chef Dennis Litley, did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, cool. Came to our minds. And why would we want to invite the chef into this? What makes it important? What makes him stand out for content marketing over anyone else? Well, let me just give a few things in here, and then, Chef, I'm going to ask you to elaborate on yourself because no one can do it better than ourselves. You're a culinary instructor. You're a chef, you're an HOA, Hangout on Air host, and you're also a Hangout on Air producer. So my gosh, you're really involved with social media, especially in Google+, since that's what our show really kind of centers around. You're the perfect guy. So take it away and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, again, thanks for having me on, Sandra and Sean. It's really nice to be here today. And I started as a chef, and it's been part of who I am for a very, very long time in me, and really enjoy what I was doing. And my last stint was at a school, and I started a culinary program at this high school I was at for two reasons. One was to help teach the high school girls that were there how to cook for themselves, so that, you know, and I started a blog, and in the beginning it was named pretty much after the school. The school was Mount St. Joseph, so it was more than a mountful. And my tagline was, yes, Virginia, there is more to life than takeout in the microwave. So I was trying to make them understand that, you know, that cooking is not difficult. It's not rocket science. It's a matter of finding things that you like to eat and blending them together. And once you learn the basics, you know, you can feed yourself for your life and feed your family. So I started doing that. And I started my blog because I didn't always have time to print the recipes out. You know, school would end, I'd get done my paperwork, everything else, and I'd have the kids coming in for class ready to go. So I'd walk them through things and say, you know, go to the blog, the recipe up there, make it, interact with me. Well, no one ever interacted. No one ever went to the blog. Some of the school students did, but none of my students ever did. And then one day I woke up with a follower from New Zealand and one in Singapore, and I'm going, you know, what is going on here? So that really made me think more and got me deeper involved in blogging, which led to social media, which led to Google+. And, you know, a lot of good things have been happening since I've been on Google+. It's just really been good to me. It's been very comfortable for me. You know, I was on Twitter, I still am, and I'm on Facebook and Pinterest and all the other media, LinkedIn. But, you know, nothing felt comfortable. Nothing felt intuitive to where I just knew, well, it wasn't intuitive, it was where I got to be myself. You know, people are always complaining, well, Google Plus isn't intuitive. Well, yeah, it is. The problem is you forgot how to be yourself. You forgot how to act like you do socially. Okay, you've spent so much time learning how to engage with social media like a brand or like a non-entity, just like an organization, that you forgot that you can engage like yourself. Like you're walking on the street and you see an old friend and you say hello, or you're standing in line and you start a conversation with a total stranger. That's Google+. That's exactly what it is. So it's people are spending time overthinking it when it's really very simple. You know, it might be a little tricky to learn some of the ins and outs of how to do things on the Plus because they keep changing things on us. But, you know, that's part of growth. And if it stayed stagnant, we'd get bored with it. So, you know, the fact that they change things and don't tell us makes it a little more exciting. I call it a big Easter egg hunt. You know, you never know what's going to change until you find it. That's pretty much it. So, I mean, I started on Google Plus as a chef. I was working for chefhangout.com, and we were one of the few that were using Hangouts for what they were intended to be. And Google really gave us a lot because of that. They verified us at times when, you know, only superstars were getting verified, and, you know, they gave us. I had my personalized name for Google Plus long before anybody else did. So, you know, we did get some perks from that. We did get well known. We did get on the follow list for some time. You know, it did help us a lot take some of the advantage over just being a regular person on Google Plus. But, you know, it takes a lot of work, and to me, it was never really hard work. It was enjoyable work. And that's really what skyrocketed me on Google+. And I admit, I don't always claim to know everything on Google+. Like, I don't know SEO, but I know a guy that does. You know, I know a guy that wrote the book. Okay, so that's always been my one claim to fame here, is that, you know, I have so many wonderfully talented friends that I've made here on Google+, that I can find somebody to talk about just about anything.
Do you know, I wonder if you're on a show that related to Facebook, if there were such a thing, or Twitter, would you speak with the same passion? And I suspect probably you wouldn't, because the feeling I'm getting is that, I think you said that Google Plus allows you to be yourself in a way these other platforms don't. So what specifically, Chef Dennis, is it about Google Plus?
I really can't put my finger on it, except possibly, and they told me this early on. Google Plus was never planned to be a social media. It was an experiment to help search. I was at a meeting with some Google Plus people early on, and they said, Dennis, we don't want to be the biggest and best social media. We want to integrate ourselves into every aspect of your life.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. And I turned to them and said, put the chip in. I'm ready. Put it in right now. Flip it in. I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm in for duration.
Wow.
But I mean, I think that's what the big difference is. They could care less if they surpass Facebook in terms of users, in terms of content that way, or social media, or if they're bigger than Twitter in the amount of whatever they do. It's not the end goal. I think what happens is during their grand experiment, so many different people have come on with different levels of expertise that had more to say than 140 characters. That had, really, that had more to say than, it almost seemed like you were a very narrow market on Facebook that you spoke to. Okay, first of all, when I came on Google Plus, I went from being national to being global.
Yes.
And it took me a while to get to national. I was local, semi-low, bigger, and then national. Then it was a joke. Someone on the California, they were sitting there talking, and the girl turned and says, "Yeah, I was on Chef Dennis's blog." And the other person turned and said, "You know Chef Dennis?"
Chef Dennis. Whoa.
And she sent me. It was a saying from oh my God, Eddie and the Cruisers. Okay, I'm famous now, coast to coast, and I'm not just talking Jersey.
Wonderful. That is a wonderful story. Thank you. Brilliant.
I was reading your about page, Chef Dennis, and the one thing that stood out for me was your one statement that says, "Why does Chef Dennis believe this?" And you put on there, Google puts the social back into social media. And I think that's what you've just so brilliantly talked about, is that even though it's not a social platform, it really is a place where you can be totally social. Is that why you wrote that, maybe?
Oh, absolutely. They really did. There's so many people downplaying Google Plus and saying it's a ghost town, no one's here. That's a crock. But the people that are saying this, again, are those ones that have been brainwashed into thinking that there's only a certain way to use social media. You've got to be this brand. You've got to hide your persona. You can never be yourself. You've got to be what you're selling, and that's all you're doing. And you're selling. The whole time is you're selling. Well, I'm selling right now, but I'm not selling anything but myself.
Exactly.
I am my brand, and one of the biggest disservices I think was ever done to us was when Facebook started. I mean, Facebook started their brand pages because they didn't know what to do with businesses. It wasn't like it was preordained and this is what they were going to do. So they made us all believe that we were brands. And let's face it, I'm a food blogger. I love food blogging. I love being a food blogger. I think it is an amazing profession. But let's face it, I'm not a brand. I'm a person who writes a food blog. Okay, I am not Kellogg's. I am not Ford. I am not a brand. Those are brands. To me, those are brands. I'm not an entity that's owned by a corporation that has a chairman and a board and takes votes or has all these other components that make up a brand. I'm a person who's writing, who's reaching other people. And when Google started their authorship experiment, which they just closed down, part of that reasoning of why they were using it was that people connect with people. They don't connect with brands. So again, they're trying to put that level of trust on a person, and you're always going to trust a person more than you're going to trust a nameless, faceless brand.
I think it's a really, really good point, and I think there's a time and a place for authentic. I must stop using the word authenticity because I know it has double connotations sometimes, but it seems to me that where we're at the moment is that people are desperate to communicate with genuine, real people. and move away from that sort of faceless communication, if you like. And I've been on the platform for a very relatively short period of time, having been on both Facebook and Twitter, and I must admit I've noticed a massive difference in terms of the reception, in terms of the engagement, and in terms of the fact that we're able to do what we're doing now. And yes, of course, it is a hangout, and not every platform's got something like that. But there's a genuine feeling from everyone I connect with of reality, for want of a better word. I'm kind of getting that from you. So if that's the case, are you finding, given that we were going to be talking about content, do you create content in a different way here on Google Plus than you might do on those other platforms and in your blogs? Or is it all related and very similar?
Well, most certainly different from the other platforms. You know, on Twitter, you're very limited in what you can say, and it's just like throwing something out there real fast. On Facebook, no one's going to get to see it.
Yeah.
So I almost don't. I don't bother. It's like saying, all right, we're going to take you to this restaurant and we're going to show you all the food, but you can't eat any of it.
That would not be good, would it?
I'm like, really? You know, so on Facebook, my heart's not into it because, you know, who gets to see? You know, I've actually started using Facebook for probably what it was intended for when it opened up, which is just being a personal log of what you are and who you are. And that's what I post, where, you know, when I go to the pool, when I go to a restaurant, when I do something fun, or if I have something I want to share, and I'll share the shows that I do on Google Plus. But I'm using the personal. My brand page has been fairly stagnant because no one gets to see it. It's not worth the time and effort that it takes. I mean, I have friends that have like 100,000 followers on their brand page, but you're not getting any. You know, you're getting a good portion of people coming to it, but how many of them, in retrospect, to how many followers you have, it just doesn't seem like it's worth the work.
Actually, in fairness, one thing to chip in on that I noticed was I have a very small Facebook brand page, and I was looking at you can actually look at yourself compared with people in a similar niche. And I was looking at, I won't name the person, but there was a person with a massive following, which was probably something like 120,000 people. But I could see that person's engagement based on the 78 posts that they've already put out this week. And they had about 45 people engage. Now, that's crazy. Either their posts are not very good, or, as we all know, unless some of the posts are paid for, organic traffic seems to be diminishing massively on Facebook. Whereas it seems to me with the unification of YouTube, with what we can do on Google Plus, there's a much more involved, integrated community feel here than there would be on Facebook. I mean, you've got a lot more experience than me. Is that a fair comment, Chef Dennis, do you think?
You know, I think so. And like I said, I've never felt personally connected to anyone on Facebook. You know, even sending those messages, because I never was inclined to stay on it all day. I was never, same thing with Twitter. I just never got that excited about it to stay on and to look for messages and to converse. Now, when I'm on Google, I have so much work to do. Yes. You know, with shows, with meetings. I mean, I use it as a business tool where I can jump in, just like this. We could jump in a private hangout and have a meeting. I mean, I have those all day long. You know, and I get messages, I get mail, I get notifications, I get all these things that come through it. So this is more of my business. I'm running my business while I'm on it, so I'm more socially connected. There's no way to run your business on Facebook. There's no really way to run your business on Twitter. You can use Suite, you can use these different tools, but you're not on that platform, and you're not gaining. It's not giving you the same kind of results that you're going to get using Plus.
Yeah, you certainly don't feel as connected, do you? And that's the impression I get.
Yeah, I mean, I even have the Docs, Google Docs, and we can share a doc together, and you can see changes as they're made. I mean, it's really an easy way to conduct business.
Wow. I think that Google, the reason I came here was totally for what you just said, Chef Dennis, and it was because of business. I saw it as a business platform, a way to be social and still conduct business, because I totally agree. I wasn't able to do the other things. Now, I am going to bring up one right now, a comment from one of our viewers, from Carrie Wielden, and she is also across the pond in London. I know Carrie, and she says, interestingly, I still find a lot more engagement on Facebook. And I think that probably, you know, I know Carrie has a huge following on Facebook, and part of that may be because she had been there before and she had already started it, and the type of her audience really resonates there. However, it's kind of odd because food is what you do, and boy, you would think that would resonate on Facebook as well too, but you've had more traction here on Google+.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know, one of the big differences here is you can't post on Google Plus once a week, every 4 days, you know, once a month, and expect to get any results. You know, you have to post every day. You have to post on Google Plus like you would probably post on Facebook. Actually, I think you can probably get a little more engagement with a post once a week on Facebook than you would on Google Plus, because on Google Plus, if people see that's how you're posting, they're not going to bother with you. But you're not giving them a reason to follow you. You're not giving them content. The people that use Facebook, I think, are inherently different than they are on Google Plus. It's not the same mindset. I think on Facebook, like, I could post a recipe and it would still get traction for a week, 10 days. It wouldn't get a lot, but it would still get traction. You know, after I post on Google Plus, it doesn't get as much traction after about 2 days, well, because I'll be posting a slew of other things too. But still, it just kind of starts to drop off. That might be the difference. And, you know, and I've always said, if you're strong on Facebook, if you're strong on Twitter, don't ever walk away from something you're good at. I mean, it's not, Google may not be for you. I'm not telling you you have to use Google Plus. I'm just telling you why I do and how I found it. But, you know, the other part of that is, you know, how hard do you want to work for not getting any results in search?
That's an interesting point.
You know, I mean, I can spend all day on Facebook and it's not going to do a damn thing for me on search.
That's a really good point. And
you know, people do complain to me from time to time is they don't get, no one is coming to my blog from Google Plus. I'm not getting traffic. Well, you're not. Okay? You're going to get a raise in your organic search. That's where the benefits are coming from. You know, people aren't going to be flocking to you from Google Plus.
Actually, that's a really interesting point. I'm really pleased you brought that up, because one of the things I'm really curious about, and I'm sure quite a lot of the audience are, is the relationship between your blog and your blogging activity and your different social media platforms. So, given what you've just said, how do you integrate, or how do you see they should best be integrated?
Well, you know, there's a way to post on Google Plus that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. Okay, Google is a photo-driven community. It's built for beautiful photographs, so you need to post a really pretty, in terms of food, you need to post a really pretty picture of food. Now, and it'll be big. Now, on the same token, a really bad picture of food big is going to look really, really bad.
It wouldn't be too good.
It's part of the evaluation. If you've got terrible skills as a food photographer, you're not going to do well. Okay, it just ain't going to happen. I would suggest taking another route then. But, you know, part of being a blogger now, like if I had known what was going into it when I started, I'd have run away screaming. There'd have been no way. I mean, I got a $5,000 camera that I use. I have, you know, all this other equipment that I use. It's just crazy, the amount and the skills you need to be. And I, by no term of the imagination, am I a very successful food blogger, because I blog about things other than food. Which, you know, every time I blog about Google Plus, I lose followers, you know, because they just want food. Right. But, you know, it's not for them. It's for me. The blog is for me. So, you know, that's why I blog about what I want to blog about.
I think in a way that goes back to your point about being real, doesn't it? Because instead of you trying to contrive to be something you don't want to be, you'll attract the audience that you do because they're attracted to you as a person rather than the other way around where you try and pretend to be something. And the danger of that is you get an audience, but as soon as you're real again, half of them leave, don't they? So I think that just occurred to me as you said it, but it seems to me that you enjoy being you, as you should do, and consequently you attract the right audience because they're people that gravitate towards you, which makes a lot of sense, really.
And and the ones that want to find my recipes, find them in your search. 40 to 50% of my traffic comes from Google organic search, and it has since about 3 months into Google+. That's where my traffic comes from. I mean, depending on how Pinterest is running, that's what makes the number vary, because sometimes Pinterest will explode and that'll push my organic search down to 35 to 40%. But for the most part, it's about 50% all the time.
Okay. Now, for those that are not following their SEO, that's another thing that probably you might want to look into, because obviously, Chef Dennis, you've really gotten into that part of it. You know, I want to, Sean and I have come up with a couple of questions that pertain to the content marketing and how well you've done with that, obviously, and it's obvious that you've done it for yourself. I mean, you're not thinking about SEO when you're doing it. You're thinking about what Chef Dennis wants to talk about, write about, and that's what's important, because if you resonate with it, then you're hoping, and obviously it works, that the audience is. Okay, so how do you keep content from not getting boring then? Because it's tough sometimes. Can you take bad ingredients and turn them into something very special, Chef Dennis? And let me give you an example with this question. Sean and I did an intro video where he showed his content. He had potato chips, some coffee. I don't know if it was instant or otherwise. He'd have to tell us that.
Only the best. Only the best. Not.
Vegetables in a bag, a cellophane bag as he calls it. Jam, homemade from a church bazaar where they were selling it, so it was a little bit better. And then beer. Now, for the average viewer, that might sound pretty bad, and they might all be rushing right out to send Sean some gift certificates for his kitchen. That being said, could you turn these ingredients into a magnificent dish that people would want to come back and eat again?
Well, I don't know if I could turn it into a magnificent dish. I could turn it into an interesting dish that people would go, I would have never thought of that. You know, it is pretty good. They're not going to give me 5 Michelin stars, but they're going to go, yeah, I'll come back to see what else you can do with crazy food. You can always find something to do. The whole secret is to think a little bit outside of the box. I mean, you see these things on these Iron Chef shows where they have to make something out of things that they have. Granted, that's a little bit of an eclectic blend of food. Probably have to, and if I could see it, it'd be easier for me to come up with it. Visual is important. When if you just give me a shopping list, it's harder for me to envision what I'm going to making out of it if I have them laid out in front of me and look at it and then go, where can I go with this? But depending upon the kind of vegetables, I'm sure you could have made something interesting with them cooked, fresh, stir-fried, something. I may have cooked them with the coffee. I may have used that jam as a dip for the potato chips.
Clever.
I would have come up with something looking at it, but I said visual is a lot of it. Going into it is what you can do with it. And and sometimes you have to know when to just walk away too.
Yeah, that's what my dietitian said.
Be back next week. Someone asked me once, can you teach anyone to cook? And no, you can't. I can teach you the motions, but if you don't enjoy it, your food's going to suck.
Do you know, it's interesting because like Sandra, I obviously looked at your excuse me, I need to cough for a moment. I looked at your about section. I also caught up with your profile on LinkedIn, and you've, like so many of us, obviously you've had your evolution. So I think you started off in fast food, was it? And then you went to nursing homes. You then worked fine dining, executive dining. and private schools, and then at some point you set up your blog. So clearly the range of food that you dealt with, the clientele you dealt with, and your repertoire changed, for want of a better word. So that's going to inform your cooking skills. In parallel with that, it's a bit of a bizarre question, but if you can bear with me, in parallel with that, did you find that as your ability with food changed, so your desire to become more creative with other things in your life changed? So your blogs became more creative, and it kind of opened your mind, or is that too bizarre a stretch to?
No, I don't think that's a stretch. It was a good outlet for my creativity, because I've always, I've been one of those people that's tried many things, jack of all trades, master of few. I don't want to say master of none, but
Sure.
Master of few.
Sure, that's not true.
When I started, I should have just gone. If I had just gone straight into my culinary career, hindsight is really great. If I had known that's where my greatest talent lied, if that's where my passion really was, I should have just gone to that in the 60s, gone to the culinary school and come out. But who knows where that would have taken me, where that journey would have ended up. It could have been a very exciting life. It could have been a very boring life. It could have been just a nondescript life. But instead, I decided, to follow music. I wrote songs. I wrote jingles. I then became enamored with photography in the days of film, and I was an apprentice to a master photographer for years, and I learned, darkroom skills and fine art, black and white photography, and that was my creative. I could never draw a straight circle. So, or even a straight line for that matter. It would take a lot. So I could never express myself in those terms. So I always tried to find other terms to express my, what I could do, my creativity, my artistic talent. And food just, really clicked with that. It resonated with me. It was something I was good at. It was something that was intuitive. I had an instructor teach me to listen to food early on in my career. Because if you listen to food, food will tell you what it needs or what it wants to add to it. You have to be open to those subtle suggestions from food, and it served me well.
That's a really interesting concept. It's actually made me think, listen to food. What an interesting way of putting it. Wow. Incredible.
It'll speak to you. I mean, whether it's subconscious or not, but I mean, if you look at Brussels sprouts, it's going to tell you that it wants bacon.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, Sandra and I.
It wants onion. It wants aromatics. It wants.
Wow.
It'll tell you how to cook it. It will really. It'll just start feeling, and when you hit upon the right things, you'll get a sense of happiness, coming from the food and from the production. Everything will start to click, and then other times you put things in and you're forcing it, and you're putting other things in to try and compensate, and you're just almost making things too complex. You're overthinking them. You're making them worse, and the food suffers, and you suffer, and everything you're not happy. The food's not happy. The people that are eating the food aren't happy. So
I think you just brought up an excellent point about whoever is watching this in business, whether it be a ski company, a food company, a horse supply company, or whatever. Listen to what your product is saying to you, because it will talk to you.
That's
and my gosh, I mean, is that exciting to think about? That if you just sit down for a moment, you don't have to force anything. Because so many times when we're watching or listening or reading a lot of content, it just seems like, oh my gosh, is it ever going to end? Because you just feel like you're working with them. And then there's that content that you just never want it to end. It's like that great novel that you don't want to read the last page. You don't want to read the last word or hear the last word. I think that's really good, Chef Dennis.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it is, and you're reaching people that way, and you're reaching them on a level, a very personal level when you do that too, because you're understanding them, they're understanding you. It's when, and I'm as guilty as anyone, you take work sometimes because you need the money. It is what it is. You have to survive. You need to put food on the table. You need to pay your house. But you know, when you take those jobs sometimes and you're sitting there agonizing, going, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. They're never going to get it. You know, I could beat them over the head with a 2x4. They're not going to get it. And those are like the most trying times for me, and I try to avoid them. And you know, anymore, like I'll talk to someone if I'm selling them Google Plus, and if they don't get it anymore, I may come back to them and try one more time. But after that, it's like, fine, have a happy life. You know, if you ever get it, call me. Because it's going to make me unhappy.
Which at the end of the day,
and if I'm unhappy, I'm not going to sell my product well.
It is that thing, isn't it, where there's so many subliminal elements to any form of communication that if we try and be what we're not at any level, it just shows through ultimately, and it just doesn't work. I mean, it does make me start thinking of content as well, only in the sense, without trying to make this a contrived question, you've obviously got on Google Plus something like 19,000 views since you've been on, 605,000 followers. That's just Google Plus, and this doesn't happen by accident. And we've already spoken about how people resonate with what you do and the different shows you do and your blogs. So when it comes to creating content for that audience, I think you've said to us you're just yourself and you just put things out there. But do you really think and plan it, Chef Dennis, or is it more of an organic, it feels right, so I'm going to put that content out? And the reason I ask is that I know a lot of people in the audience will want to hear from you top tips, if you like, for creating really engaging content, and obviously you do.
Well, if I don't have my own content to post, the most important thing to remember that is good content is good content, whether it belongs to you or it belongs to someone else. Okay, the most important thing to remember with that is that you're sharing the original post, and the person that created that good content is going to get credit for it. Never claim content that isn't your own. That's just wrong. But when you share that content, you have to think, I always tell, in terms of food, it becomes easier, because when I tell food bloggers, okay, you want to share things that you like, but it's got to be a win-win. It's got to be a win for me. I've got to get something out of sharing your work, and it's got to be a win for you. You've got to get something out of me sharing your work. So if you have a really bad picture of food, I'm not going to share it, because I'm not going to get anything, and I can't fix it. You're not going to get anything. So it's a lose-lose for both of us. But if you post a really nice picture, something that's very striking and appealing, and I'm drawn to it, and I share it, and I get 100 pluses and 15 shares, well, all those shares go right back to you. And anybody that may not have known you is seeing you, so you're getting a good benefit from me sharing it. I'm getting the attention of resharing it, but it's all coming back to you. So it's got to help you. So if you're going to share things, you know, I don't want to say don't share your friend's stuff, but if your friend's stuff isn't really going to create that kind of appeal and that kind of attention, it's not going to do either of you any good.
No.
And then it's going to bring you down. So you sharing it isn't going to help. You need to find content that is worthy of your shares. Just like even in Plus One, I won't Plus One everything because it's recommended. I'm now recommending them. So I want things to be interesting. And I tell you one thing I stay away from is if people don't have the time to to build a regular post, I just bypass them. And I think you see a lot of that in Google Plus. Like if you're just posting a link and now we get that little crinkle cut, it's actually a bigger picture now, so it looks better, but it's still, there's no effort into it. You're just posting it. And if you don't have time for a post, I don't have time for you. And the people that post that go, well, I'm not getting any engagement. Well, yeah, because you just threw up a link. You need to create a post just like you would on your blog. An introduction. Absolutely. An introduction, a link, hashtags, a dynamic picture, share it. And when you're resharing, if you don't say a little something on your reshare, you're missing the boat too. Just don't reshare the post. Say, this is dinner tonight, wow, or I would kill for this chocolate cake. share a little something. You don't have to use hashtags, but I mean, put a little info into it too.
Yeah, it's putting something yourself into it, even if you're sharing the content. You then put your own stamp on top, don't you? That's
And
I
if it's
think
a
what
Google
you're saying.
Plus related post, well, share your thoughts on it. If you agree, share why you agree. If you don't, and you don't have to agree. If you don't necessarily agree, say, I see his points. They're valid. I like them, but I think actually this way. So create a post on top of their post. And it's just a good way to do things. And always attribute if someone,
That's good.
if
I
you
like that.
see someone who shared it, attribute, hat tip, H/T, hat tip to the person. Throw them a bone. Is it hurting you? No.
No, absolutely.
Can I, for people that might be asking this question to themselves but have not shared it, what would you recommend? Do you only just post to things that have to do with food, or do you recommend going outside of the box a little bit and just other things that are of interest to you and that you just find pretty darn good?
I will share anything that makes me happy. And I was sharing probably a little too much of things that made me happy, and Google kind of gets confused sometimes then. And like, well, is he sharing food? Is he sharing social media? Is he what the hell is he doing? So, I do try and stay food oriented probably 80% of the time, just because that's who I am. I am on thankfully on a list on food, and I don't want to confuse them anymore. I like being on the list, but it is again who I am. But
Yes.
that who I am also, is interested in, other things, like if Peg Fitzpatrick shares something, or Rebecca Radice shares something, or Dustin Stout that really speaks to me and they all, I mentioned those three because they do dynamic images, really cool stuff that draws you in. Well, if I share them, what's it going to do? It's going to help me. Helps me. Help me help you. Help me help you. So
that's a great saying. I think that would be a great title. That would be a great title to a post.
Totally agree.
The Tom Cruise movie. What movie was that? You Had Me at Hello.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
That's what he kept telling the athlete. Help me help you.
I love it. I love it. It would make a good title for a show, Sandra. That's the next one, I think, isn't it? We were talking again. It's making me think. We were talking in the green room about the different interests you've got, and you brought them up again. So clearly, food's a major part of your life, but photography, as you shared with us, music is a big part of your life, and you've got a music show later this week, and it's a weekly show. And again, just because the audience is coming in looking for content tips, it sounds an odd question, but do you apply the same principles for the content in the different niches that you work, or do you sometimes have a different dimension of creativity? So if it's a music show, do you look at doing it slightly differently than the food show? I know the content is different, but it's kind of I was curious about it.
Well, I think the whole philosophy behind anything you do is that it has to provide value, and it has to, and for me, it has to entertain. If I'm not entertaining you, why do you need to watch me? You can find shows all over Google Plus or all over YouTube to watch that might provide better content or might give you better insight to what you're looking at, but they're not going to entertain you the same way that I am. My guests feel very comfortable on Good Day Google Plus and very relaxed, and you might see a side of them you might not normally see. And they're going to try and entertain you just because we're having fun. I love the music parts, the segments of the shows that I'm having, and I would have one every week if I could find people to come on and do it, or jugglers. And I was even thinking I might start doing dramatic readings myself. I have to get a smoking jacket though. So.
What a great thought. Hey, Sandra, are you up for a juggle?
Sure.
I've got a velvet smoking jacket.
Not for the juggling, for the dramatic reading. Although that could be interesting too.
It could certainly be interesting.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is we all like to laugh. We all like to feel
Yeah.
good. And that's what content marketing really is, giving somebody a reason to want to be with me, or you, or you, or you. Why do I want to go someplace where I can hardly wait for it to end? I'm not going to stay anyway. I mean, that's a fact. Like you said, Chef Dennis, give me a reason. Give me a reason to want to read or watch or follow. And if you're not putting effort into it, then I'm certainly not going to give you my effort or my time.
Right. You know,
Absolutely.
it's again, you're finding your customers. You're finding the people that relate to you on that personal level, and no matter what you're selling, you know, it's going after that niche. You know, not everybody on Google Plus is going to want to watch me. I wish they would. You probably enjoy the show, but no, it's just, you know, we all have different wants. We all have different needs. There's people that like the direct, powerful message that like Ryan Henley gives to you, you know, the fire in him, the spark, and you know, you're motivated and you want to go out and you want to just conquer the world, you know, and he really is a great motivational speaker, you know, something like that, where I'm not going to motivate you to those terms. I'm going to show you what I like to do, how I like to do it, and how to have fun. You know, I'm also at a point in my life, you know, somebody asked me the other day, I was at a meeting, and they said, well, what do you want to get out of this? What do you want to do? I said, oh, I'm 60. I don't want to do a whole hell of a lot. You know, if I was 30, it'd be a whole different story. But I just want to do a little, you know, have fun doing what I'm doing, make some extra money, and enjoy my life. You know, it all depends on where you are in your life,
Very true.
what you want at that point, and how you want to deliver it. Like right now, you know, I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying the day. I'm on a high. When I get off the show, I'm going to be on a high, and I'm going to be ready to go out and really have a good day.
And
What could be better?
Well, I don't know about you, Sean, but when this show's over, I'm going to be hungry.
I'm hungry. I'm
I'm
definitely
getting a little
hungry.
hungry myself.
Not for those awful ingredients that I put in the promotional video, though, Sandra. I have to say, no, definitely not for those. But I mean, your energy is without sounding funny about it. Your energy definitely does come out, and I guess, you know, that's what people connect with. And in fact, it comes back to that help me, help you in one respect, which is when people like and trust you, I guess they're more inclined to share content and engage with you anyway, because they see you as a real person. We've kind of had that discussion. Now, Scott, a couple of comments in the stream. I'll just read them out. But the help me, help you has resonated with Cheryl. She says that to her kids all the time. I better read this, actually. I better put it on here rather than paraphrase it. So, Cheryl, help me, help you. I say that to my kids' teachers all the time. That's kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. Thanks for that, Cheryl. And Scott has taken a note and put a timestamp on. So thanks, Scott. So that's going to be shared there, which is terrific. Now, Sandra, you look as though you're about to pounce on Chef Dennis. You've got some profound thought there, I think.
Absolutely nothing profound. My gosh, I mean, it's so exciting to be around somebody that has energy and that gets excited and passionate about what they do. I think that's the one thing that resonates with everything that I have seen this morning from you, Chef Dennis, is that you're very passionate. And really, in my opinion, and you can take it or leave it, but I think without passion, nothing exists beyond mediocre. Because you have to have that. And if that's what it is that you're loving doing, it comes across. The one thing I want to know, though, is what would you recommend, Chef, to anyone today that they could go, I mean, maybe they're having trouble trying to figure it out, go from mediocre to standing out in the crowd and making people want to come back to what they have. You know, my saying these days is they may not remember what we say, but they're going to remember how we make them feel. Mm-hmm. And that's why I look at this as a good meal when you're doing content marketing, because when I've had an excellent meal, I'm happy. I can hardly wait to eat it again. And it kind of sometimes takes away from the ability to try something new, but if I give you something new in the next dish, then I'm going to have the same response. So what would be your tip to those people?
Well, you know, if you're trying to excite and to energize and to get your message out to people, I think you've got one of the most valuable tools you could ask for right here on Google Plus, and that is exactly what we're doing right now, is a Hangout on Air. Now, I advise people all the time, that are struggling, that are starting out on Google Plus, and have a product that they want to sell, whether it be they're baking, I don't mean selling it as like selling it out in a store, but to get the message out to people, whether they're a craft blogger, a food blogger, an SEO blogger, a dentist, whatever they do that they want to get a message out about. Use this media. Sit down, get excited, and tape 10 2-minute spots. That's it. 10.
That's brilliant.
1 to 2 minute spots. Okay? Tape them on YouTube Live, make them all private. And even if you don't know how to do that, just, if you're not getting your message out a lot right now, not that many people are going to see it. So you can go back in and then make them private later. But now every Tuesday, every Thursday, whatever it is, in between spots that you market your content, you share posts. Okay, pop this video out with, I'd like to talk to you today about carrots. Carrots are a really unused vegetable. There's so many things you can do with them. You can puree them and make cream of carrot soup. You can eat them raw for snacks. You can saute them with orange juice and honey and make this delicious side dish. You can make them into a salad. You can do, talk about your passion for 1.5 to 2 minutes. Could just be a tip. Could be, did you know that if you use this and this and this, I'm going to share one of my favorite cleaners for your garbage disposal. And this is an actual thing. I got it off a post. I love it. You take pieces of lemon and lime, and you cut them up with other aromatics, and you freeze them in an ice cube tray with water. Ice helps sharpen your garbage disposal blade, and it smells really nice when you're on it. So, something that simple. Share something of value. Share some of your passion. Now, you're on Google Plus, so here's the beauty of it. For 10 weeks now, I have a little 2-minute spot that I'm pushing out. More people are going to see it. People are going to share it. People are going to comment. Okay, 10 weeks are over. I'm going to make 10 more. Okay, I'm going to sit down for an hour and knock these out. It'll probably take you a little bit more time planning them. And then now I'm going to, because you've now, after 10 weeks, have a lot of new followers. So what you shared 10 weeks ago is brand new again. So now I'm going to share a new one, and I'm going to share an old one on Tuesday and then on Thursday. So now I'm getting more momentum. Now I'm building my momentum.
That has got to be, I don't know what you think, Sandra, but that has got to be the tip of the week for me, if not the month, or if not longer. That's brilliant. I absolutely love that. So 2-minute videos, quick, and as you said, perhaps more effort is put into, wrong word, but you think about them, you construct them, they're really good, they become evergreen because you've got a cycle of new fans that come in, you can repost them, it's different, it's not a straightforward post, it's fresh, it's vibrant. What a great idea, thank you. That is, for me personally, I really appreciate that. It's given me some food for thought.
I don't know about you, Sean, and certainly Chef, I'm sure that you didn't get the same reaction, but you gave me goosebumps because
me too.
Were explaining it. It was like, wow, I can hardly wait for this to end and for me to get in front of the camera at some time today and start doing my little videos. And we're not, obviously we're all on camera, so we're not afraid of camera or anything, but for somebody that's afraid of camera, that can be a little daunting. However, a 1 and a 1.5 minute, boy, most people can talk. Yeah, they sure can. And the way you said it, it's like, wow, okay, I can hardly wait to put this cake in the oven and put the frosting on it and eat it.
Yeah, it can work with whatever your business is. If you're selling work clubs, or whatever you're selling, if you're passionate about it. And the beauty of this is that video is king, and you want to remember that you put in some text in that video. Just don't leave it blank. Put your keywords in and everything, but put a nice explanation, because video is going to rank really, really well on SEO. So, and I tell all the restaurants I go to, God, buy your chef a Mac, something that's easy to use for these, that you don't need a microphone and you don't need headphones. I don't buy Apple products, but that it's a really well-built computer and you don't need all the extra stuff. So throw it in his office, let him sit down and say, hey guys, today I'm making ossobuco. It's this roasted veal shank that has a marrow in it with these vegetables and it's yada, yada, yada. Or give it to your server and say, today for dessert we're having chocolate lava cake, and have them dribble it. Make these little 1-2 minute spots. And when people search your restaurant and all these come up, you go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, let's get there.
Yeah, and it immediately gives authority as well as being searchable, doesn't it? But what I love about what you've said is it doesn't matter what your business is, does it? Anyone can find 2 minutes of something to say on any business, whether it's making shoes or being like yourself, a chef, or I don't know, whatever it is. You can find 2 minutes of creative content and lace that into a video and do yourself a huge favor, which is fantastic.
Anybody that loves what they do knows that there's so much more into everything that they do to get that product out there, and they can talk about all those different things and make them interesting and fun and exciting. And get us to understand more of it, and then you become a person of value. Then you become an authentic person and a person they're going to turn to. So that even helps you even more in search, because now more people are coming to you because you know what you're talking about.
That is brilliant. Thank you. Fantastic. Wow.
Oh, okay. I think that we're ready now to go. This meal has been excellent. It's left me wanting more for sure.
Definitely.
And after a good meal, you just sit back and you enjoy it and you think about it and you talk to others about it. And I think that's what I'm going to do. And with my favorite drink, might be a latte today, though, I'm going to have to tell you. Okay, Chef. I would like for you to share with the audience where they can find you. I know they can go to your About page, but just give a little bit of clarification, please.
Okay. Well, on Google+, I am Chef Dennis Litley, and that's probably the only place you need to look for me there. And across all the other social media, if you look for Ask Chef Dennis, including my website, it's askchefdennis.com. And on Instagram, I'm Ask Chef Dennis. On Pinterest, on Facebook, on Twitter. So on pretty much all the other social media, that's who you look for on LinkedIn. And that makes life really easy for me. I am my brand. That's who I am, so it made things simple that way. And I also have 3 shows right now on Google+. I have Good Day Google+ every Friday. And I have Around the Kitchen Table every Monday where I cook something. And then with Mia Voss, I have the Food and Booze show. And this Saturday, actually, we're going to be taking it to Tokyo.
Whoa, fantastic.
Yeah, we're not going. Unfortunately, neither of us.
You're not going. What a shame. What a shame.
Candy Sakai Javier, I forget how to pronounce her name, is going to be guiding us in one of the biggest department stores in Tokyo, where they have this palace of food on 2 floors. It's a big, like a, and we're not talking about like our food malls where we have barely edible stuff, but they have beautiful food displays.
Wow.
It's really taking to another level. So she's going to be walking us through that. But the important thing is, and I always tell people, when you're trying to do a show, think about it in terms of beta, get it to work, and see where it goes from there. But sometimes shows run their course and you move on to something new. Stay fresh, stay happy, stay informative.
That we've got to share that. Stay fresh, stay happy, stay informative. And it's lovely to see that your tip earlier, lots of resonance. Kerry Wheeldon, Susan Anderson, Scott Scowcroft all say what a great tip. To paraphrase all of them, the 2-minute videos. So I think you're going to get a lot of people following up on that. So thank you so much for that. And what time is that show going out? That Tokyo show? That sounds.
Tokyo is going to be 9 p.m. New York time.
Right, 9 p.m. Eastern.
10 a.m. Japan time the following day. So it's Saturday night for me. It's Sunday morning for Candy. Me will be at 7 p.m. So I guess in England it's going to be the middle of the night, or 2 in the morning.
5 hour difference. Yeah, 5 hour difference with Eastern and GMT. So I'll still be watching.
But the beauty is, Hangouts on Air makes a YouTube video. Gotta love it.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Oh wow, fantastic.
This was a great show.
Indeed.
I'm so glad that you came on, Chef Dennis and Sean. With all of your great contribution, another good time. We learned so many fun little tips. That's exciting. I mean, gosh, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to be really natural because I get so excited. It's like I just blabber, 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 blabber. So, everybody that's watching, please go and follow us if you are not already doing so. We like followers, each one of us. Follow us on YouTube as well as all of the other platforms. YouTube is a goodie. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And we hope that you'll comment below and have a good day.
Thanks, guys.